Hello, guys. Welcome back to another election prediction. This time we have Joe Biden versus Tulsi Gabbard. And looking at these, you're going to say, well, Tulsi Gabbard's a Democrat. She's still registered as a Democrat. At this point, she's going to be like speaking at CPAC and stuff. She's already begun this massive shift to the right wing, just because I think she thinks that's her only avenue to like ever be president. So at this point, I'm expecting her by 2024 to probably be registered with the Republican Party, and if Trump doesn't run, she'll throw her hat in the ring for the 2024 Republican primary. I mean, it'll be very tough for her to win because she used to be a Democrat, but so was Trump. He used to be a Democrat, and he won the primary. So I think she's going to brand herself as a sort of populist Republican, like how Trump had. And I don't think she would be the worst candidate, but in Hawaii, there's no way in hell she's even getting it down to likely. I don't think she has enough supporters there to, like, enough of left-wing supporters to just decide to vote Republican. She is already completely shifting on nearly every policy to the right. So voters are going to keep that in mind in Hawaii, and they're still going to vote for Biden. But I do expect Hawaii to become a bit more Republican if she's the nominee, but she won't get it below 10%. I highly doubt that. So I think we got all the solid states that we do. All right, so Iowa, even though she used to be a Democrat and she used to be fairly on the left, she's just been shifting so far to the right that she's going to align herself with populist interests here in the Rust Belt, and she would have some strength as a populist Republican here, and especially in Iowa with Biden's really awful approval rating, she'll win the state by over 10%. Ohio, on the other hand, I see going to likely by 7 to 8%. I mean, there'll be some Republicans who are like diehards that might not want to vote for her because she used to be aligned with Bernie, but she's shifting to the populist Republican, so I think she'll get most of the populist voters out here. So let's head to Florida. Florida, I actually could see it going to lean Republican just because she used to be so aligned with Bernie in most issues that might alienate some Cuban voters here, which is why I would put this state into the lean category for her. I think she still wins it by a fairly comfortable margin because of Biden's pretty bad approval rating in the state of Florida. Texas, I think she'll probably win the state by a likely margin. She's pretty much nearly shifted to right on most issues where Texas agrees on, so I think she'll comfortably win this state. The state of Colorado and New Mexico, I see each of them going to likely, just because I think she might get some populist voters in Colorado, and in New Mexico she'll get the margin down because of Biden's approval ratings going down, so she'll do pretty well there. In Arizona, I think she'll actually flip this state just because as long as it isn't Trump running, it really should be a lean Republican state at this point with Biden's approval ratings going down by a lot. I think she'll do pretty decent here. Nevada, I think she probably would actually make it tilt Republican. I think she'd do fairly well here with populist voters. She might even get some populist Bernie voters that refuse to vote for Biden here in the 2020 election because Biden didn't do that well in Nevada compared to Hillary. I think he did it slightly worse, and that could be because some diehard Bernie supporters just didn't turn out to vote. So it's a real factor of where those populist voters would go, and she might get some, and that's why she would probably flip the state of Nevada to a tilt margin. Plus, Biden's approval ratings aren't the best here. So there's that. North Carolina, I see that probably going as lean Republican for Tulsi Gabbard. I think some diehard Republicans might not turn out as much. Still think she carries it by 2 to 3%. State of Virginia, she is very anti-establishment, so I don't think she would do the best here. So that's why I would rate that as likely Democratic. It really likes establishment moderate candidates. And Tulsi Gabbard is rapidly shifting from the left to the right. Might not be suitable to Virginia voters here. The state of Minnesota. Well, I'm actually going to... Minnesota would be a lean Democratic state. I don't think she would flip it, but she will get the margin down quite considerably because of Biden's approval ratings and populist voters she would appeal very well to. Nebraska's second, however, I think they would narrowly go to Joe Biden. They like a more moderate candidate, and Tulsi Gabbard's pretty much shifting to the far right at this point, so I don't think that's going to do well for her in the Nebraska second. They really don't like populists so far from what I've seen. They didn't really like Bernie. Or a Bernie-endorsed candidate in Nebraska second. They voted for my Republican. So, state of Georgia, I think that would narrowly tilt towards Tulsi Gabbard. Joe Biden is a real shot here because He's a more moderate style politician, but I think his approval ratings will just drag him down in this state. Of course, if his approval ratings improve, he'll totally probably win this state against Gabbard. But I think Gabbard will have a narrow edge there because of Biden's approval ratings overall are like -10, around there. So let's go to Maine. Maine at large, I think Biden would win by a lead margin, while Tulsi Gabbard probably crush it in Maine second with populist voters. It's a fairly populist district. There's a lot of young voters up there, but I think she'll do pretty well with them, considering they really like populist candidates. So now we got 4 states remaining. Now I'm going to do Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin would probably go to her by a lean Republican margin. I think she'll do extremely well with populist voters here. Pennsylvania, on the other hand, I think would be slightly more narrow because she used to be fairly on the left, so it's going to be hesitancy from the right to really be motivated to vote for her. But I think she'll be probably fairly committed to shifting to the far right. Now we have New Hampshire. I think she would do extremely well up here. I think she would probably carry it by a lean margin. This state is pretty populist. Bernie did it pretty well here in both primaries, so she might get some of those Bernie, maybe some of those Bernie voters. It's hard to say. She would definitely get some populist voters, but I don't think she'll get like too much Bernie voters, but she'll get a decent amount. So we got Michigan left here. Now, Michigan, it's really hard to say which way it would go with Tulsi Gabbard as a nominee. I'm going to say it probably narrowly goes to Biden because she used to be fairly on the left. And I think it'll cause some hesitancy for people to vote for her. But overall, she probably defeats Biden just because of how bad his approval ratings are. Plus, even though she used to be a Democrat, she's shifting far right on nearly every issue. And in this day and age, I don't think that really matters anymore in politics. As long as you just focus on what issues you support now, that may be all it needs to win at this point. So that's my election prediction. It's an interesting one. Let me know what you think of it in the comments below. See you guys in the next video.